The story begins in a dark time as the Israelites endured harsh oppression from Pharaoh of Egypt, who forced them into heavy labor and treated them cruelly. Amid this suffering, God heard the cries of his people and prepared to deliver them. God heard the cries of his people and decided to send Moses, a humble shepherd, as their leader. On a miraculous night, God appeared to Moses through a burning bush that was not consumed. He entrusted Moses with the bold mission of leading the Israelites out of Egypt. Initially fearful and doubtful of his own abilities, Moses eventually recognized God's strength and set out to fulfill this great mission. Moses bravely went to Pharaoh, confronted him, and demanded the freedom of the Israelites. But Pharaoh, in his arrogance, looked at Moses with mocking laughter and stubbornly refused to release the Israelites. This marked the beginning of a miraculous battle between God and Pharaoh. In response, God brought 10 terrible plagues upon Egypt, from the Nile River turning to blood to frogs overwhelming the palaces and streets of Egypt. Frogs emerged from the Nile and appeared everywhere in the homes. From the dust of the earth, gnats rose up and covered all of Egypt. Next, swarms of flies appeared everywhere, spreading disease and killing many of the Egyptians' livestock, such as horses and donkeys. But Pharaoh remained determined not to release the Israelites. God then sent down the greatest hailstorm Egypt had ever seen, destroying trees, homes, and killing anyone who did not find shelter. Swarms of locusts appeared, devouring and consuming all plants and crops. One by one, the plagues were unleashed, yet they only made Pharaoh challenge God's power further. But in the end, after the final plague, the death of the firstborn, Pharaoh was forced to relent and allowed the Israelites to leave. However, this journey was not easy. As the Israelites approached the Red Sea, Pharaoh changed his mind and led his army to pursue them. Cornered, Moses prayed and received a miracle from God. The sea parted, forming a dry path for the Israelites to cross. When the Egyptians pursued them, the sea closed back, drowning all the soldiers and chariots. Pharaoh stood helpless. The Israelites rejoiced and gave thanks for God's mercy. After escaping Egypt, the Israelites continued their journey through a challenging and arduous desert. At this time, Moses prayed for God to provide food and water, and God provided them with food and water flowing from rocks to survive, as well as laws and commandments, including the 10 Commandments. Moses ascended Mount Sinai, where God made a covenant with his people and established them as his own. The story ends with the hope of a promised land, a place where the Israelites would live in freedom and peace, free from oppression. The Exodus is not just a story of deliverance, but also a reminder of faith, perseverance, and God's love for his people, even in their moments of doubt and wandering. The Exodus is not merely a historical account of the Israelites' escape from slavery in Egypt, but also offers profound and meaningful lessons for spiritual and moral life. The story emphasizes the importance of faith. In life, we often face great challenges, but if we hold on to faith in ourselves and in God, we can overcome any hardship. The journey through the desert lasted many years, but the Israelites learned to be patient, to wait, and to trust that hardships were only temporary. Life is not always easy, and good things often require patience. The story teaches us that in the toughest moments, patience and perseverance will help us achieve our goals. In everyday life, leadership roles emerge at every level, from family and school to society. Learning to lead with love, responsibility, and humility is essential. In the modern world, this reminds us to fight against injustice and stand up for the vulnerable. The story also inspires hope for those who feel oppressed or deprived of freedom. When the Israelites reached the Promised Land, they were reminded to be grateful to God for his deliverance and guidance. Gratitude helps us appreciate what we have and generates positive energy in life. Gratitude is also a way for us to acknowledge those who helped us in difficult times. Each of us faces personal challenges. Instead of fearing or hesitating, the Exodus story encourages us to face and overcome challenges, believing that good things await ahead. The Exodus is a symbolic story of the struggle for freedom, a core value of humanity. Freedom is not just liberation from physical bondage, but also freedom of the soul. In modern life, freedom holds deeper meanings, from the freedom to choose and think to the freedom to express. However, freedom comes with responsibility, something the Israelites learned on their journey. Even in the hardest times, we are never alone. In some way, there are invisible forces or sources of support that will always accompany us as long as we hold on to faith and goodness.